Hello everyone, welcome. This is the 2023 verdict live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Abuja. Channels Television election program, which took off on the 1st of February, has been taking over your usual daily and Sunday political programs, Politics Today and Sunday Politics. And now, before we get into the program tonight, let's also remind you that the countdown, we are not keeping our eyes off it. It's 19 days to the 2023 elections. The Nigerians are anticipating the opportunity to elect their leaders in February this year. So get your PVC, everyone. I guess you have about only today left to do that, and keep your PVC and get it on election day and make your votes count. This program is interactive, and we want to get your views on the topics we have for discussion. So tweet to us and on these handles that will be showing on your screen using the hashtag 2023 verdict. Or for those of you who want to send an email to 2023verdict@channelstv.com. And don't forget to be part of the poll which we have put up. It's the 2023 verdict poll. And we asked a question: which of these issues would you like the presidential candidates to focus more on, either when campaigning or upon winning the election? And so those options are there: security, the economy, corruption, and electricity. And also you can send some of your responses via email 2023verdict@channelstv.com. We've been seeing some of your emails and some of your response, and we get the result of the poll tomorrow. So you have an understanding what the aggregate of those who participated in the poll and those who send a message, what they would like the candidates to focus more on in this election. What a moment in Nigeria's history it's been. We were saying next year election just a few weeks ago, and now it has come to this month election, and it's now a matter of days. Our focus tonight is on the big stories, and let's get a feel of the political temperature. And here is the state of the race right now. President Muhammadu Buhari showed up for Bola Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the APC in Nasarawa State, where he told supporters of the APC that he will continue to campaign for Tinubu as the next president of Nigeria.
I will continue to campaign for Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
The APC presidential candidate salutes the courage of President Buhari for offering a leadership that will rescue the nation from all its challenges.
Today, I stand before you and make a pledge again that Nigeria will recover from all challenges.
And in the camp of the Labour Party, the presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, took his presidential campaign to Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, over the weekend, where he assured citizens of the state of a new Nigeria built on the rule of law, fundamental human rights, probity, and accountability if elected president come the 25th of February.
This year's election, let nobody come and tell you about tribe. Every tribe is hungry. There's no tribe that buys bread cheaper. Let nobody tell you about religion. No religion buys bread cheaper. Every tribe is suffering. Every tribe religion is suffering. Let nobody tell you it's his turn. It is your turn to take back your country.
And in Rivers State, the governor Nyesom Wike has sent out a stern warning to the so-called cabals, reportedly trying to scuttle the February 25th and March the 11th general elections, asking them to desist from the plot, saying no to any form of interim government. Governor Wike said, quote, "Let nobody try to scuttle this election."
Nothing will stop Opopo Koroma to the governor. Nothing. God will get him. Yes, sir. So anybody when they do anything, make you first to go protest, to go fight, make any misconduct capitalize on that. No way. To say they don't postpone election. No way. Angry government. No.
The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, was giving an assurance that the Beavers machines will not fail on the 25th of February. The umpire conducted a mock accreditation exercise across the country yesterday, where the technology was again put to test to warm up for the presidential and National Assembly polls.
So far, so good. Voters have been verified using their PVCs and then authenticated using their fingerprint or facial. In the 2 polling units we have visited so far, there is no report of failure. The machines are performed optimally.
Mr. Oke Highway has been elected as the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate in Abia State. He is the immediate past chief of staff to Governor Okezie Ikpeazu. His emergence followed the death of the former flag bearer, Professor Uchenna Okone, who died on the 25th of January 2023. Following the death of Professor Okone, the PDP in the state held a primary on Saturday to replace the deceased candidate in accordance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. Highway emerges Abia PDP governorship candidate to replace late Professor Ikane. A few issues for discussion tonight, everyone, from the internal wranglings in the APC to the tricky intrigues of the race and the question of who is likely to be Nigeria's next president, and a very dicey interplay of wit between the political parties on policy issues. We take up these issues to get some perspectives. And tonight, I'm being joined by a former governor of Edo State and the Deputy Director General of the APC in charge of operations. And of course, he's running in the election also as well in his senatorial district on the platform of the APC. He's the past national chairman of the APC. Comrade Adams Oshiomole joins me here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for joining us in our election studio. This is your first time in this studio.
Again, thank you for having me and congratulations for a very beautiful studio.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's get it started. A lot has happened in your party recently, which we've been hearing a lot of the leaders speak about. Some of these has brought up a lot of issues, big ones. Big question mark on the internal health of the APC. And it's shown these internal wranglings and it's very vivid. How would you describe the situation now?
To be honest, I don't know specifically what you are referring to. Because as far as I'm concerned, and to the best of my knowledge, APC is very healthy. We have internal cohesion. We have all our senior party leaders working together, from the president to all the 22 or 23 governors elected on APC platform, to all our senators, all the members of House of Rep, whether those who lost primaries and those who won. We are all working together, and we are on record as having the opportunity of hosting people who didn't win the primaries and who, in spite of that, are actively participating in the campaign. So when you say there is internal problem, some hate within the APC, you need to explain, please.
Did you watch the interview of Governor El-Rufai on channels?
Oh, yes, I did.
So does that give you any inclination as to perhaps the ongoings in your party?
I think what El-Rufai was talking about is not so much about our party. I mean, if you dissect it and you problematize and interrogate the essence of what he was saying, what I understand is that El-Rufai rightly, like all Nigerians, wondered why and who is responsible for scarcity of PMS and other petroleum products. Of course, truth be told, it is not the first time we're having it, but it appears to be far more severe this time and almost totally nationwide. And the consequences is such that even myself, my humble self seated here, I have been campaigning in villages and wards and communities across Edo State. And in one location, I ran out of fuel and I had to pay 1,000 naira for a liter. Now, that is not funny. Somebody is responsible for that. And as we speak, we are spending almost 7 trillion naira. The Minister of Finance speaks to the fact that we are spending about 7 trillion naira for subsidy. And yet, most Nigerians found themselves paying much more than what the market rate will be. And yet, you have petroleum equalization fund. So people are responsible for this. Now, if we thought, okay, this is not unusual that we have fuel scarcity, even from the days of the military, all the way to Obasanjo's government, to Yaradua, to Jonathan. So we can say this has become a perennial problem, but that doesn't make it acceptable. The second is what is obviously not a coincidence. The decision of the CBN to change the colors of the currency, of some of the currency, or so-called currency redesign. And again, that is not new. UK, I was there a couple of months back, and they have a new currency, new 20 pounds note, 50 pounds note, and it takes them about a year and a half, not only to sensitize the people, but to give them time to, in the course of, doing businesses, they retrieve the old ones and introduce the new one. But then suddenly CBN woke up to say that they resigned the currency. There was no consultation, not even within government. At least the Minister of Finance cried out, and he warned that there could be consequences, economic consequences, arising from this decision. And in one of the interviews I had with, I believe it was Arise Television, I said the least people should talk about in matters like this is not just the fact that you have acted within the law. You have the legal power, legally, to do certain things. But we are taught in basic leadership that whoever has power should pray for wisdom. And with wisdom, you will recognize that a population of 200 million people, you can't change policy overnight, like you change from a generator to NEPA and vice versa. But even worse is that you want me to change my old clothes by fire, by force. I'm willing to do so. I've actually acquired, you told me that there are new clothes to replace the old one. Now I have removed the old one, and the new one is not available. And you leave me naked. And then you tell me that I can't take more than 20,000 naira from my own money in a country in which also partly in part because of the CBN monetary policies, which has led to massive devaluation of the naira. A bag of rice in naira terms costs 30,000 naira. So if you spend 35,000 or 30,000 naira to buy a bag of rice, CBN roll out a policy that says you can't take more than 20,000 naira. That is where the ATM is working, which means you will have to queue for a whole day to take money enough to pay for half a bag. And if you need to pay for a whole bag, you have to queue another day to raise 40,000 to be able to buy a bag of rice. Shehu, this is not sensible.
And so, I mean, you're not only a political elite, you're running for election, so you are reaching out and you're running a grassroots election, so which you need to go to the grassroots to see people. So you can feel, you have had a fair share of these situation in terms of the fuel situation which you described. So you see that there is a lot of problem. Nigerians are facing hard times. You suppose that this is artificially triggered. And to what end would you think that those who triggered this circumstance or this situation or economic hardship have in mind?
let me make a confession to you. After I'm a Catholic, we are supposed to confess. I was confronted by people, old men, pensioners, young people, mechanics, vulcanizers in rural communities. They are not living on government. In some communities, there is no presence of government. It is they and God. And they asked me, why are we imposing this hardship on them? I have to enter a disclaimer. I said, Nigerians, and I know it to be the truth, we did not elect the governor of the CBN. And so he may not be sensitive to the pains and anguish which the electorate are going through. And that is at the heart of what El-Rufai was referring to when he talked about sabotaging the election and affecting the APC. Now, let me try to explain what I think he meant. If you have pockets of riots, the type we saw in Ibadan, and what happened in Benin, that even men in uniform, soldiers, unable to get cash from banks, from ATM
machines,
had to go into University of Benin to compete for space, to break the queue in order to take, obviously, not more than 20,000 naira. And in the process, there is a scuffle between men in uniform and those they are supposed to protect, students. The rest is history. You have riots triggered by this process. A policy maker must not only look at what is lawful, it must look at its executive capacity to implement what it wishes to do. And Shehu, I thought it is the responsibility of the central bank to compel Nigeria banks to locate branches beyond what they consider to be economically viable. Which is why, for example, in my local government, I covered my senatorial zone, we have 6 local governments. Of the 6, only 1 local government has banks. The remaining 5 have no banks. And Edo is one of the oldest states in Nigeria, being part of Midwest, later Bendel, and now Edo. And yet, we have only 1 local government with banks. And so, even the most industrialized part of Edo State, like Okwela, where you have 2 giant cement factories, there is no bank there. And so, it was painful to me, and I was shocked. Because, you know, you and I sit in the city, we pontificate about elections, etc., etc. When a small farmer, a motor mechanic tells me, in the course of my campaign, that the POS operator in his neighborhood insists that he should pay 20%. So when he wants to withdraw 5,000, he has to part with 1,000. Nigeria is not exactly a banana republic. I am shocked that the CBN could pursue this senseless policy. And let me be clear when I say senseless. It's not about the idea of changing currency. This governor has broken no new grounds. Because we have changed currencies before. And I dare say, check the records. When General Buhari changed the colors of the Naira, when he did in his first coming as military head of state, he did not forbid the banks from paying people in new notes. He did not impose restriction as to how much you can withdraw, provided it is your lawful money. To assume that every Nigeria is corrupt, that the motor mechanic is corrupt, and that this policy is meant to check corruption, the CBN is not part of the institutions charged with the responsibility of ensuring free, fair, and credible election. That is not in the act establishing the CBN. So when I hear argument that seems to criminalize and, in a sense, blackmail the political elite as though they are responsible. In fact, at the point I got angry and I said, if corruption is at the heart of CBN challenge, how do they explain that you, Shehu, because you host easily one of the most popular TV programs. And so if you were to report a camera, you can get $1 at 440 naira to the dollar. And your cameraman, who knows nobody, he wants to pay his child school fees, he has to go to Wuse Market to buy the same dollar at 740 naira. If that is not corruption, what is it?
So I mean,
wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I think what Erufa was saying is that if you have pockets of riots and protests, and because our armed forces, whether the police and obviously the army is not trained for that, to manage discontent, mass uprising, you may end up with a situation where you are unable to conduct election. And so it's not only APC that will lose. Everybody will lose. Shehu, do you notice that even Atiku appeal for extension? Citizens should beg government to extend the value of their legitimately earned money, because in a democracy, don't forget that what distinguishes democracy from dictatorship is popular participation, a sense of ownership of public policy. And so it is not enough, we can't be governed by decrees. If the president cannot govern by decree, nobody in Nigeria should govern by decree. We must be governed by our consent. So, we have parliaments.
Yeah. So, and I asked the question, comrade, the CBN was reappointed by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yes.
President Buhari is of the APC.
Yes.
We can then say this is an APC-led government. Can you excuse whatever is happening, the economic hardship on Nigerians? Can you excuse the APC from all of this?
Unfortunately, it's a very difficult question to answer. First, we can't deny the fact. And for me in particular, I was the national chairman, and I went around the 36 states campaigning for APC victory, both at the presidential, Senate, National Assembly, governorship, and even House of Assembly. So I cannot order any guys pretend or even attempt to delete myself from the APC. And even now, I am a candidate on APC platform. And I'm not ashamed about that. But having worked as chairman, which enabled me to work directly, to relate directly with the president, I know the trick that the CBN played. Because we have a president who has told the world, and I believe he was right, that if Nigeria does not kill corruption, corruption will kill Nigeria. And he meant it. Even in informal talks, we do say that if you want the president to accede to something, you must assure him that what you want him to approve will not in any way translate to a corrupt practice. So I can guess, because I wasn't there, that in obtaining the approval which the president said he gave, I believe the CBN deceived the president by amplifying the need to have a corruption-free electioneering, as if election is the only project that this president has responsibility for. Because once you tell the president that, you know, we have to remove corruption from our electoral system, we must prevent vote buying, and by changing currency, those who have stock money, they will be trapped, and election will be free, fair, credible, no vote buying. The President Buhari that I know will have no difficulties in agreeing.
So
however,
yeah.
wait, Shehu, the CBN governor knows better than that. He knows better than that. He knows that, I mean, even to talk of vote buying, I'm sorry to say, and I don't want to be misunderstood, but I'm not saying anything new. Somebody said so recently. We have moved from a situation where all you need is to compromise the police and the INEC, and you write result, and they are declared. Then you start balancing the ballot papers later, to one in which those seeking election are now afraid of the electorate. If people say you are buying vote the way you bribe the police, you bribe people you are afraid of. Even that, it's not as bad as where we are coming from. I am not justifying it. I am on record as launching one man, one vote and try to popularize it across Nigeria. I believe in it because if there is no free, fair election, people like me could have a chance to contest for governorship. The timing, excuse me, you could see that the intention of the bank, is not to eliminate abuses, is to prevent the election from taking place. And let me ask you, even INEC will have to revise its budget if it budget to buy PMS to distribute election materials, and you now have to pay 500 naira or even 1,000 naira a liter, like I paid last week. Where will you find a difference? You're going to do a supplementary appropriation. If you have riot like you have in Ibadan, you had in Benin, I don't know elsewhere, and they were taking place simultaneously, and you are now dealing with the issue of protecting life and property, will election become a priority? So it is in that context that whoever scuttled the election would have scuttled the chances of APC winning the election. But I'm happy that even Atiku appealed for extension. But in my view, I think the National Assembly captured the mood of the people. And I'm happy about that because what distinguishes a dictatorship from democracy is the presence of parliament. They live and they represent 360 constituencies across the 774 local government in Nigeria. They are in touch with their people, and they have spoken. Nobody should lay claim to be more patriotic than the other. Now, those poor pensioners who were crying to me in Edo, what do I have to do? I couldn't own up to the decision because I was not consulted. It's not a party decision, it was never debated at a party forum. So I believe that the governor of the bank just play on what he considered to be the president most, because president is truly committed to anti-corruption, and so he uses that to achieve other objectives.
Although the governor of Kaduna State had given us yet another word in our political vocabulary when he said elements in the villa, it used to be the cabals. Some people had said cabals and the element, they are the same thing, and a lot of people are wondering, who are these cabals? Well, bringing this intentional hardship on Nigerians. We are due for a break, but before we go there, to that break, I would like you to tell Nigerians, you are a candidate of the APC. Yeah. You are a former governor under the APC. You are also the national chairman of the APC. How do you then, the national chairman, how do you then reconcile or convince Nigerians about these sort of situation, this economic hardship that they are facing in the face of the fact that your party is seeking a re-election? And how do you then describe what have been described, as a lackluster economic policy decisions of this government? Because you are going to the polls, how do you convince Nigerians?
I think this is why Governor El-Rufai suggested that there are people who are working to ensure that APC is defeated, because by imposing policies that create this kind of hardship, I have seen a post which, I said Nigerians are very creative. You can't fault it, even though it's only half of the truth. And the guy said, they made us to queue to buy PMS. Then they made us, first they made us to queue to go against our own money from our bank. We are not government people, we are not corrupt. They've not accused us of corruption. But we queue to collect small of our own money. And then we took it to a petrol station or a black market. We queue to get small PMS. And these people think we are going to queue again on election day to vote for the party that opposed this hardship. And so this is the basis of Governor El-Rufai's conclusion, that those behind it, and I don't want to talk about elements in the village. I like to speak to faces. Some people may not like it, but it is better you measure names so that you do not, how we measure CBN governor, and he asserted his power under the law. he didn't say he was acting under pressure. So I prefer to believe him that the decision is the product of his own womb. Ill-conceived, ill-thought out, poorly timed to create the hardship. And I'm sorry to say, because it's not a secret that he wanted to contest and he paid 100 million for APC nomination form. And the president directed that all those who want to contest election should withdraw from the race. I mean, they should resign. And I remember when he went to the villa apparently to consult. On his way out, they asked him, have you been cleared? And he said there will be big news soon. The only news we have now heard is this change of currency. We have not heard the news why he didn't proceed with his candidate. So not a few, listen, not a few wondered whether Governor Mefule is angry with people like us who are in APC, whose form he bought, even though I'm not responsible for the selling and the buying of the form, and that he could have chosen a policy that would discredit the party. Right. And unfortunately, everybody knows President Buhari's constituency in Nigeria is the army of the poor. The elite has never supported him.
We are due for break.
And it is these poor people who are hit the most by this policy.
We're due for a break, comrade. We'll continue our conversation. Some people have described President Buhari's campaign in Nasarawa as a boost for Bola Tinubu. How that came about, some of the controversies and the intrigues that have come up in the run-up to this election. We take that up when we return from this break, everyone. Stay with me. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Comrade Adams Oshiomole, the Deputy Director General of the APC Presidential Campaign Council and a former national chairman and former Edo State Governor, has been speaking with us on the program.
I remember I was also former president of Nigeria Labour Congress.
That's a long time ago. A lot of the Gen Zs and some of those who are watching that can't even remember that you're a former Labour.
That's why they need to be reminded.
The reason why you still have the brown uniform that you always wear. Thank you so much, Comrade Adams, for joining us tonight. But quickly, before we get back to the conversation, let's get your messages and some of the responses to our poll question. Which of these issues would you like the presidential candidate to focus more on, either when campaigning or upon winning the election? That is the question we posed, which we asked you to go to our Twitter handle and get your response. These are some of the interesting responses that we're getting from you. From our email, Unwachuku Edmond Uche said, our economy needs to bounce back to normal. Nigerians are going through hell. Yet some citizens still making wrong decisions and choices of whom to vote. The Nigeria we all loved and cherished before still lies in our hands to restore it back. Then Sydney Benedict is the long one into our email, but I'm just going to read the first or second and the second paragraph. It says, security, I believe, has been a major challenge and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. A great portion of the problem we face in Nigeria being the result of a bad and decayed security infrastructure. That's Sydney Benedict. On Facebook, AGK Stanley Aneke says, with no exception to a particular one or few, whomever emerge as the next president must focus on the 4 points agenda mentioned, which are the options that we put before you. That's AGK Stanley Aneke on Facebook. Ayeni Folorunsho on Twitter said, sadly, people are voting for the economy when corruption is the foundation of economic crisis in the country. And maybe one more. And Mazi Chukwebe Chukuchu Chibueze says the Nigerian problem is corruption. When addressed, the problem of other sectors will be solved by 50%. Thank you so much to all of you that sent in some messages. Keep it coming. And tomorrow we'll let you know how much of the aggregation of your votes on the poll that you've put in. Let's get back to the conversation. Comrade, were you surprised that President Buhari showed up at the Nasarawa rally?
Not at all. On the contrary, I was surprised that people who like to twist facts and who behave as if they have no memory or they are in another planet try to make issues out of nothing. President Buhari is the chairman of Bola Ahmed Tinubu campaign organization. He announced it by himself that he accepted and that he would chair and he had been chairing the organization, the campaign council. Number two, he also said he's not going to ground government. Even when he himself was a candidate, there were occasions we have to cancel some scheduled rallies when there are other state matters, whether at home or abroad, that he has to attend to. I can explain to you the two that he was not able to attend. One of them was in Ogun State. That day, President Buhari was in Senegal. It is no secret. The media reported it. And so I'm surprised that anybody other than those who thrive and flourish in scandal or mischief, we see his absence in Ogun as an issue when he was attending to state matters in Senegal. The second was Kwara. He informed us and he informed the candidate that he was going to whether Madagascar or Mauritius to attend to an African forum of heads of state. And so we have a choice to postpone to another day or he will be absent. And because the calendar is already choked, we are getting too close to the election. We decided that we can always go to Kwara and he will attend other subsequent events. Let anybody tell me which of the rallies we have attended since he started attending rallies that he's meant to attend, that he deliberately stayed off. In our calendar, I can show you the states that we feel he should attend and the state that we think we can go ahead without his presence, because, don't forget, whereas he's a supporter and the chairman of the Tinubu Campaign Council, he is first and foremost the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. No one expects him, like Tinubu is doing now, to move away from the State House for the next 30 days or 40 days. That is not realistic. So people choose to make issue out of nothing. But his appearance yesterday was scheduled. It is not the result of any new development.
So perhaps, comrade, just a moment, because we don't have time a lot too. In Ogun and Akwa Ibom, your candidate openly and boldly criticized the policy of this government, talking about the issue of power, the economy woes in the country, the fuel scarcity situation. They believe, there are some believe that your campaign cannot cherry pick on what to take from the APC. You either disown it or own it.
With all due respect, those who speak like that, they are poor students of politics. Even in the US, since we choose to celebrate the fact that our presidential system is modeled around the US presidential system, you do not have two presidents of the Democratic Party pursuing the same policies. Shehu, I have watched channels. I have watched Arise Television. Let me limit myself to those two. When they analyze, for those who don't have direct access to CNN or Fox, which are based in the US, how President Trump decided to veer off the tradition, quote, of the Republican Party, even as a sitting Republican Party president. What Biden is doing today are not exactly the same policies that Obama pursued, even as they are of the same party. What makes presidential system different is that individuals come with their own ideas, and happily so, because the situation we are dealing with is not static. Now, the power sector was not privatized in the manner that it was done by President Buhari When PD privatized it and handed it over to their friends and relatives who know next to nothing about power generation, I, as governor of Edo State, and Uduaga, as governor of Delta State, we did a press conference denouncing President Jonathan, and the PDP for the manner in which they privatized power. Not that we were opposed to the idea. Even worse is that they tied the hand of the next government by entering into an agreement which says you cannot review what they've done until after a certain number of years.
But, comrade, comrade, unfortunately, we're out of time. Just for a moment, we're out of time.
Don't ask questions that I cannot explain.
No, just for a moment, we're out of time. And you mentioned the PDP, who have now described your campaigning as childish and not statesmanly. If you can conclude on that note, just in 30 seconds, what do you say to that?
It takes a childish party, a party that chooses to change its name without being baptized, as they tried to do after they lost out of power after 60 years. After Atiku Abubakar confessed that they spent $60 billion and that they paid all the contractors, they did not deliver power, and no contractor is being prosecuted. It is childish for people who have involved themselves in the kind of thing that they were doing in PDP that brought Nigeria aground. Nigerians wouldn't have chased PDP out of power if they were performing well. And PDP is on record talking about being childish. It is only under PDP government that a vice president childishly fought with his president over how they share the money for equalization fund. It is only under childish PDP that, you know, a city vice president decamped from the party under which it was elected, even though it is back to that party now. I don't think you should take the word of opposition.
All right.
You quote them authoritatively as if you are citing.
Those are the ones because you are in competition with them.
Yeah. But when they go low, at least you should go high.
No, you are competing with them.
Now you have forced me to go low because if I don't, sometimes like Wike said, you slap me, I slap you.
Comrade Adams Oshiomole, thank you so much indeed for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Well, that's our show for tonight. Don't forget to keep those messages coming. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I'm Seun Okinbaloye. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.